So we're going to start the January Community Board meeting for Community Board 3. My name is David Ford. I'm the first vice chair. Our chair, Alicia Lewis Coleman, is not feeling well this evening. She will be here. She will be late, but she has no voice. So we are going to proceed. We're going to start off with our public, their views, and we'll start with them. The first person we have this evening is Harry Bubbins. Happy New Year.
Hello, everyone. I'm Harry Bubbins. I'm the East Village and Special Projects Director with Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. Happy New Year to everyone. I just want to share our continuous support and appreciation for the progress being made on the East Village Special District that the Economic Development Committee has been considering and was shared at the Land Use Committee meeting last month. I don't know particularly what agenda item it is, but we are fully in support of the East Village Special District. We're glad of the progress being made and want to underscore the support from merchants, especially along and next to 2nd Avenue, business owners like Tom from Veselka, Pamela from Dinosaur Hill, Otto's, Bonnie and her bookstore have all supported the expansive limitations of formula retail, especially on 2nd Avenue. And so we continue to advocate for that as the process moves along through the community board and city planning. And we're very encouraged after last land use committee meeting and the work that the Economic Development Committee has been doing on this. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Harry. Next we have May Lee.
Good evening. My name is May Lee. I am with the Chinese Progressive Association. I want to announce an event to you that we are having in February, actually a series of events. So we are having a series of events one-day events to help people apply for U.S. citizenship. So if you're a green card holder, you might be eligible to become an American citizen. You have to fill out an application. So we will have immigration lawyers and volunteers over there to train. They're trained, and they will help you to fill out the application and answer your immigration questions about citizenship. The first one will be on Monday, February 11th at the Educational Alliance. That's a Monday evening. We will have people provide the services in English, Chinese, and Spanish. There are flyers over here and outside in 3 languages. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me or pick up a flyer.
Thank you. That concludes our... Yes. So that actually concludes our public session. We're going to move to elected official reports. Right, well, we'll give our esteemed borough president a moment to get settled before she addresses us. Is there anyone from Mayor Bill de Blasio's office? The public advocate, Letitia James? Comptroller Scott Stringer? Congresswoman Nydia Valaquez? Congressmember Carolyn Maloney?
Here we go.
Okay.
Good evening. Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney released the following statement today as the Trump shutdown becomes the longest government shutdown in recent history. Quote, history will long note that on this day we set a record for the longest government shutdown in American history. Future generations will also remember that this shutdown was caused willfully, recklessly, and single-handedly by President Trump. The president's unwillingness to compromise and reopen the government is causing widespread pain to real people. Federal employees and contractors struggle to make ends meet as they miss their paychecks and as critical services, including food safety inspectors, anti-hunger programs, and small business loans are on hold or not accessible. The longer the president refuses to reopen the government, the worse it gets. I will continue to vote and reopen our government and urge my Republican colleagues to do the same. We must end this madness now, said Congresswoman Maloney. These and other issues can be found in this month's Community Board 3 report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other elected official representatives?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Schweinsberg, and I'm proud to represent Assemblymember Harvey Epstein. You'll find his Community Board report on the back, highlights of which include his update on the new East River Alliance, and there's a reminder there for y'all to please consider joining the rally and press conference prior to, also plan on staying to be involved in, the city council hearings on January 23rd, that's tomorrow. The press conference and rally take place at 12 o'clock on the steps, and the hearing to follow at 1 o'clock. The other things he'd like you to be aware of is his upcoming town hall on January 31st. It's outside of being held outside the district, but applies to the district, where we'll talk about education, housing, transportation, disability rights, good government, and legalization of marijuana and how it's going to affect our community. The final thing, please, if there are, you know of any youth, I don't see youth present here this evening, between the ages of 12 and 22, he is organizing a District 74 Youth Council and would very much appreciate your recommendations of people. The filing deadline to become a member of the Youth Council is February 1st. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. A representative from Yuh-Line, Niou.
The town hall takes place at the Nagel Auditorium at 345 East 24th Street. It's in the NYU Dental School there, First Avenue and 24th Street. Yes. Okay, the board is of his district? Right. Well, they'll be throughout the district. Starts with the United Nations along the east side. Now, north of 14th Street, we go over to 3rd Lex. South of 14th Street, it's First Avenue, roughly down to Houston. First Avenue east to the river, down to Houston. Thank you.
Thank you. How are you? Welcome.
Hello. Hi, my name's Monica with Assemblymember Yuh-Line Niou's office. We do have a CB. Our town hall. It will be held at the same place as last year, which is the Manny Cantor Center, located at 197 East Broadway. Our town hall has a few panels of multiple experts. It's been broken down according to topics, so in case there are specific topics that you're interested in, they are highlighted, and our flyers are in the back in Spanish, Chinese, and English. So please do RSVP. We had a full house last year, so we want to make sure that there's plenty of seats for everybody and that we have everyone accounted for. I'll be in the back if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is Sunday. It's Sunday. It starts at 11:30 and it ends at 6. But again, the panels are broken down, so you don't have to be there the whole entire time.
Deborah Glick's office, representative. Okay. Brian Kavanagh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Venus Mullins from the Office of State Senator Brian Kavanagh. I just want to highlight some good legislation that just passed recently. You might have heard about it. One is early voting, pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds, automatic voter registration. These are a number of bills that Brian had been fighting for in the Assembly for a number of years, and now finally they were passed last week, so we're really excited about that. There are some other things that are agenda and some other pieces of legislation that we hope to get passed really soon. If there are any NYCHA constituents having heat and hot water issues, please contact our office. You can ask for me directly. I'll be happy to fight those issues with NYCHA and try to get these mediated for you. So, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Brad Hoylman.
Hi, I'm Caroline Wexelbaum from State Senator Brad Hoylman's office. And I just wanted to echo what Venus said. We had some amazing legislative victories in Albany this month. Last week, we passed a ban on so-called gay conversion therapy, which was considered a form of child abuse. And we also passed GENDA, which is the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act, which will prohibit discrimination based on gender, expression, or identity in the human rights law for New York State. So that's a really big deal. And today, we passed the Reproductive Health Act, the Comprehensive Contraception Coverage Act, and what's called the BOSS Bill. The Reproductive Health Act codifies Roe v. Wade in New York State law. That's a very big deal. And the Comprehensive Contraception Coverage Act strengthens access to contraceptives. And then the BOSS Bill bans employers from discriminating against you based on your reproductive history. In the spirit of tonight, I'll try to move swiftly. In our board report available in the back, we have an update on the L train. We have Senator Hoylman's statement on it. We have some information about the sanitation trucks parked on East 10th Street. We have some information about defending small businesses from predatory lenders. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight was Senator Hoylman's concern about the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. As many of you probably already know, there will be a city council hearing tomorrow. The senator plans to testify, rather he plans to have a member of his staff testify because he will be in Albany, but he plans to submit his thoughts on that, and he's very troubled by a lot of the things that have happened in that process. Are there any questions? Awesome, thanks. Oh, sorry.
There seems to be several comments within the community that there may be a second strategy that may or may not necessarily be out in the open so much, that they may want to do something different than what they're presenting to the public with the East River Resiliency Program.
You mean aside from the plan that was rolled out in September?
Yes.
I don't have any information on that. I would have to point you to DDC and the mayor's office. I'm very sorry. We know pretty much everything that the public knows from public presentations. I'm sorry about that. Any other questions?
So we'll call any other questions? And point of information, excuse my newness at doing this, but at this point, the questions would come from board members. Because the public session has ended. So if members of the public have a question for any of the elected officials, representatives, they can speak to them on the side or take them outside.
Thanks so much.
Do we have a representative from Margaret Chen's office?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Marian Guetta, Councilmember Chen's office. Just want to start off with Happy New Year and a big budgetary reminder from our office. As many of you know, New York City Council fiscal year 2020 budget process is now underway, and discretionary funding applications are now online. So if you're a 501c3 organization looking for discretionary funding from the member or through initiative New York City Council speaker funding, please apply. The deadline, the hard deadline from New York City Council is February 19th, 2019. So on February 19th, that's when the online portal will be pulled. There are no takebacks, so please make sure you get your application in ahead of time. time, which is why Councilmember Chin put in her own discretionary internal deadline of February 8, 2019, just a little bit earlier so that you can have an opportunity to put your application in ahead of time and ask any follow-up questions with our office. And the non-city capital funding form is also online. The deadline for that, if you are applying for non-city capital funding, which is a larger project, minimum $35,000, and has a useful lifespan of at least 5 years. If you are applying to the borough president as well as a council member for non-city capital funding, that hard deadline is February 20th. So it'd be great for organizations, schools, RAs, buildings, and nonprofit organizations to reach out to us as soon as possible if you have any sort of questions about the process. I have a few supplementary applications that would make it easier for NYCHA resident associations as well as schools to outline their priorities. So if you'd like a copy of that, feel free to reach out to me in the back. And just one legislative item that I want to share. Last month, Councilmember Chin was proud to introduce 2 bills that would reform the SAPO process. So this would basically send a message to those retail establishments that sometimes hold these unannounced promotional pop-ups that often sardine enormous crowds on city streets and cause safety risks as well as create lots of sanitation problems the day after, to be a good neighbor and provide advance notification to the community board whenever they have any new applications for SAPO or any changes to current SAPO permits, to submit that to the community board so that they have an opportunity to review before the event happens, as well as create a penalty where none has existed before for those retail establishments that fail to file a SAPO permit for a SAPO permit in the first place. So this basically sends a message that you can do business in this neighborhood as long as you demonstrate your due diligence as a good acting neighbor. So wanted to highlight a few of the other offices. Tomorrow, what they said, tomorrow is the ESCR hearing hosted by the Parks Committee in New York City Council. To be clear, that's tomorrow, 1 p.m. at the City Hall Committee Room. That's not New York City Council chambers. You got to go one room over. It's a little bit smaller, but there should be enough space for folks to testify. If you would like to testify or submit testimony and you can't make it, feel free to reach out to me later on today, and I'll be happy to enter your testimony into the record. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. is also Councilmember Chin's hearing on women aging into poverty. Women, gender equity, age justice are 2 big issues that are intersectional and very important to Councilmember Chin's priority and agenda. So that's tomorrow, 10 a.m. That's a joint committee with the Committee on Women, and that will be at City Council Chamber. So if you want to share your story, feel free to come by. Thank you.
Any questions from board members?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
So just earlier today, I checked the calendar and it was saying that the ESCR was a joint meeting and it was at the chambers. Has this changed the queue?
We got, according to the registrar, now I could double check, it's tomorrow at 1 p.m. I know there are lots of meetings happening at the same time, but no, it is at City Hall. If there are any changes that day, just reach out to a sergeant at arms and they'll point you to the right space.
Yes, sir.
I just had a question regarding the capital budgeting. I'm wondering if you can tell us why Margaret's the only Manhattan-based city council member not to participate in fiscal budgeting, and if she plans to in the future.
Yeah, no, we get a lot of those conversations, and we understand the importance of everybody having an opportunity to weigh in before the budget is adopted. Councilmember Chin really prides herself in the process that we have in place, which is reaching out proactively to all schools and to all resident associations and stakeholders in our district to come out to us and meet with us so that they can share their priorities so that we can make sure that the funding is equitably distributed. Unfortunately, you only have $5,000 in the pot. That's not going to change, and we'd love for it to change. But that's been our process so far. And so if you know anybody who'd like to reach out to us for capital funding, we're happy to take a meeting and talk to them. Yep.
Just to add to that, Community Board also has public hearings on it in September, which community traditionally can participate also.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, Val. Val, go ahead.
The
Manhattan Detention Center, one of the things in September, Community Board 1 had opposed the fact that they were going to do all four together for Yuh-Line, which is basically how what you're building affects the surrounding community. I was just told that they have like separated it out, so they're not going to do all four of them together, I guess, in one place. That they're going to do Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, I guess, and then.
I don't have more information on that. I think that's something that should be confirmed by the mayor's office since they're facilitating the process.
The mayor's office?
Yeah.
The criminal justice folks, Dana?
Right. And I could check in with the folks on our team to see if they've gotten any updates on that end, but I personally haven't. I personally haven't, so I can't confirm right now. Sorry about that.
All right, I'll contact them tomorrow.
All right.
Because I think that's a much better way to
Okay,
do.
okay, thank you, Val. Asked and answered, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian Lewis from Manhattan Borough President Gale Brewer's office. I'm sorry, we saw Gale walked in, but she was probably looking, there's another meeting, so she was looking for that meeting, I'm sure.
Sure, that makes sense. Good evening, everybody. Brian Lewis from Gale Brewer's office, Manhattan Borough President. First of all, Happy New Year, and I'll try and make this really quick. So on January 11th, we attended a meeting hosted by the mayor's office and a bunch of elected officials, most of whose representatives are here, basically to really push DSNY, DOT, and the mayor's office, thank you, on the issue of the DSNY trucks parked on East 10th Street. We think it's pretty unacceptable that this has been going on. There's not been any sort of resolution or even time frame given. So we came up with some potential alternative places to put the trucks, and they are going to look at them, and we're going to continue pushing them on that because we think, again, it's unacceptable. The L train tunnel shutdown, we joined a letter co-written by Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and also signed by many of the elected officials here, basically responding to Governor Cuomo's announcement about the L train tunnel reconstruction plan. We're calling for a review of the process that led to this sudden change. We are asking for further analysis of the state of the Canarsie Tunnel, especially in regards to the silica dust issue that's been raised before, and also demand that the previous commitments that have been made to the community are honored in whatever way the L train thing goes down, which I'm still not really sure how it's going to go down. On January 8th, the Economic Development Corporation held a public meeting at our offices in regards to the improvement of the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade. There was a really great turnout, a lot of really amazing ideas from the community members who participated. Our office, along with Councilmember Chin, are contributing $6 million to this redesign proposal. And we were also really excited to see that everybody else seemed to be really enthusiastic about the beach underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, which the borough president's a big fan of. So we're glad to see that. And then a couple other kind of general announcements, but really important. We invite everybody to the State of the Borough address. That'll be happening on Sunday, February 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. at NYU's Skirball Center, which is at Washington Square South on LaGuardia Place. Doors open at 1 p.m. I'm sorry, that's February 24th. Sunday, February 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. Doors open at 1. The last thing is community boards applications are open, so we would like to remind you that it's available both online and in paper. The paper ballots are in the back, and they have to be either submitted or postmarked by February the 8th. This also means that if you're a current community board member and your term ends on 2019, that you also have to reapply. I understand a lot of people like to do that at the last second. It would make my life a lot easier if you did that sooner. But I get it. February 8th is the due date, though, and you do have to reapply if it's a 2019 term. But that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions from board members? Thank you, Brian. Sheila Rodriguez from Councilmember Carlina Rivera's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila, and I'm from the office of Councilwoman Carlina Rivera. Happy New Year's, and I hope that everyone has been warm. It's been a couple of really freezing days, and so be a kind neighbor. If you have a senior who may be in need of some assistance, please give a hand. So I want to talk about two things. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day for Carlina at City Hall. Carlina secures joint hearing on the new Eastside Coastal Resiliency project. At Carlina's request, the City Council will hold a joint hearing of the committees in Parks and Environmental Protections to examine the updated Eastside Coastal Resiliency project and the reason for the change. The joint hearing will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. at City Hall and is open to the public. I know that Carlina and our Chief of Staff has been doing outreach and encouraging folks to come out and share their concerns. Hopefully that would gather a lot of attendees, and the committee will be moved into the City Hall chambers if we get enough of a turnout. Then Carlina's bill, Intro 1163, is being heard at the City Council Transportation Committee. As an avid bicyclist, Carlina has made the protection of pedestrians and cyclists a top priority in her first term. Intro 1163 is and will require construction companies to provide safety tours around any work crews and equipment that obstruct a bike lane. The bike lane detours will be clearly demarcated, at least 4 feet wide, and protected with physical barriers and separated from pedestrian traffic. Also, one more thing to mention, we've been getting a lot of complaints about the 2nd Avenue station in recent days, and we want to thank Community Board 3 because they did bring in together the transit precinct and homeless outreach to see how we can address that issue. But 311, if you see any homeless individuals, can track what's going on and deploy their resources. That's all.
Any questions from board members? Yes, Olympia.
Justice. So at this time, that is still currently, I want to say, at an injunction, but I am not the legislative person. Jeremy Unger is, and he can speak more to that, and he's available at the legislative office. So I can meet with you in the back and give you his information.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did I miss any elected official representatives, please? Sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jacqueline from Congresswoman Nydia Valaquez's office. So we are currently actively monitoring the federal government shutdown. Her and her Democratic colleagues are holding firm against Trump's ridiculous demand for an immoral, pointless, and wasteful wall that most Americans do not support. I know that the Senate, on the Senate side, that they have to reopen so we can just get. Valaquez has also, as the chair, small owners, so to work on help prevent, track, and prosecute hate crimes and assist victims of hate crimes, which we know is a big issue in this community and throughout New York City. And she's also Congresswoman Valaquez is also standing up for tenants' rights. So the Landlord Accountability Act would ban discrimination based on a tenant's use of housing vouchers at the federal level. And also she is working on transportation challenges. So this legislation would steer federal funding to transportation alternatives when transit arteries such as the L train are being shut down or being renovated. And finally, in her legislative agenda, she is working on the Pesticide Protection Act, which would ban commercial, I cannot say this word, chloropyrifos, which is a chemical that has been linked to damaging and often irreversible health outcomes in workers, pregnant women, and children. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah, I noticed Nydia is one of very small number of Congress people that voted against the wall this time and in 2006. A lot of people are very come lately, and I just want to thank her for her leadership, her continued integrity and leadership.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'll let her, definitely forward that to her. Thank you.
Was there a question? No, okay. Yes, go ahead, Sandra.
How is the shutdown affecting low-income families, Section 8 housing?
I mean, it's difficult, right? We don't really have a lot of numbers on how it's impacting a lot of the tenants because the people that we would ask in HUD are not in office. I mean, we know that we are actually trying to work on some letters to maybe send to the landlords to convince them to, to not punish the tenants for things that are happening at the federal level. I mean, the Congresswoman's going to continue pushing HUD and pushing also Nydia to find solutions. I know that there was some backup funding in a lot of in the city budget, but we're most concerned about private landlords and in Section 8 tenants.
Is that the discretion of the landlord, whether or not to litigate or evict or?
I can't really speak to that at the moment. I know that we're pushing on it.
There's no government protections yet, or no action, or litigation, legislation, or anything to protect.
I mean, this situation is really unprecedented, and so that is something that we are going to work on in the future. Now that we know that these tenants are so vulnerable, in the future we will be working on legislation that would protect them in further future situations like this. But unfortunately, currently, you're correct.
I just want to personally thank Congressmember Valaquez. Last week we attended her press release, and it was really informative, especially the HUD person. Who was that? The name of the lawyer? I couldn't catch the name of the lawyer who spoke about this particular topic.
I can find her name for you, but I believe she was with Legal Aid. Yeah.
My video went viral.
Oh, yeah?
Of that, yeah.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Any other questions from board members? And let me just add, since that question came out about the shutdown, one of the news alerts that did come out is people that are on SNAP or food stamp benefits actually received their benefits for February on or about the 17th of January, which means they have to accordingly manage those monies. They're not going to get any more monies in February. So it's something that, as community leaders that we should keep an eye on, because at some point that will start to impact people. And I guess Susan will be speaking on that later. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that concludes our elected official reports, and we can move on to roll call.
Okay. David Adams. Yaron Altman. Jesse Beck. Dominic Berg. Dominic.
We're voting on the minutes for November, is that correct?
Yes, this is roll call and voting on the minutes for November.
Thank you.
Thanks for the clarity.
Lee Berman.
Yes.
Victoria Barrios. Lisa Burris. Carlin Chan.
Yes.
Jonathan Chu.
Yes.
Mi-Fong Chung. David Crane.
Yes.
Paul G. Rienzo. Said it, yes? Yes. Eric Diaz. Yes. Dean Johnson.
Yes.
Alistair Economacus.
Yes.
Shirley Fennessy. Shirley. David Ford.
Yes.
Ryan Gillum. Deborah Glass.
Yes.
Herman Hewitt. Trevor Holland.
Yes.
Linda Jones. Valentina Jones.
Yes.
Megan Joy.
Yes.
Lisa Kaplan.
Yes.
Olympia Kazi.
Yes.
Joseph Kearns. Mei Lee.
Yes.
Alicia Lewis Coleman. Luis Lopez. Luis. Michael Marino.
Yes.
Jeremy Markman.
Yes.
Antonio Martinez. Alexander Militano.
Yes.
Nancy Ortiz. Carolyn Ratcliffe. Damaris Reyes. Richard Ropiak?
Yes.
Robin Chattel? Larissa Scheinberg? Larissa? Clint Smeltzer, yes. Anisha Stephen? Yes. Sandra Struther? Yes. Josephine Velez? Yes. Rodney Washington? Yes. Kathleen Webster?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, and Mi-Fong Chung? Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Board Chair's report. So on behalf of Alicia Lewis-Coleman, who's not feeling well today, we thank all the members who were in attendance for our holiday celebration and the board member who hosted same. This Saturday, there is a housing town hall at 301 Henry Street from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Community Board 3 will be on the panel discussing our role in the community. Any or myself, chair members will be asked to they do. This will help. We also encourage people to keep warm during these freezing days, and if there are any heat and hot water complaints, to call 311. And lastly, a happy New Year, happy Lunar New Year on behalf of Community Board 3. Thank you. Now we go to our district manager's report. Susan? Yes.
Regarding homeless people, videos that went virally safe in the subways. So the meeting that Sheila's referring to is our district service cabinet meeting, in which we had the MTA housing, the MTA police, BRC, who does the homeless outreach, attend, and also Manhattan Outreach Consortium, because some of the people in the subway are also homeless on the streets. And I'm very happy to say that everyone seems to be coordinating. BRC and the Manhattan Outreach, the street homeless, are meeting once a month to see who they both have on case management. And the transit police have been working with BRC. Just give you a little bit more information. Sorry. Find it yet? Okay. Everyone's agreement, even the outreach people are all in agreement that there is a lot more homeless people in the subways this year and last year. The BRC, the homeless outreach, visits the station, each station daily. They've had, in December, they did get 6 people to accept services, so it is really worthwhile to call 311 and make sure that they know that there are homeless there. This is happening across the system, not in just Community Board 3, but they are finding people are more resistant to accepting services. Among the things that BRC is doing is removing benches and decreasing footprints for homeless and having frequent check-in, even if it disturbs sleep. This is part of a broader campaign that has proven successful in reducing homelessness because it's convincing clients to accept services and beds. I was actually kind of upset when I first heard that they were removing benches, because that also affects everybody. But they are saying that, you know, it has been successful in both getting people. I don't know if people actually accept services because there's no benches, but their outreach is somewhat successful in getting people to accept services, but also reducing the footprint and disturbing them so they're not allowed to just be there without any interruption or any services or enforcement. Does make them more likely to accept services, because the idea is not just to have people go from one subway station to another. I'm not sure that everybody's aware that it has definitely been decided that the L train tunnel is not shut down. Even some of the agencies are talking as if they don't have final information, but I did confirm that with the MTA this afternoon. Our draft agenda says they may be coming back to the Transportation Committee, but they will not be doing it in February. They want to wait till they have real plans, and I would suspect that would be in March. First Park, there were complaints about the First Park, which is Houston and First Avenue, about it closing early. It turned out the franchise there was responsible for closing the park, and they felt that they could close, or misunderstood, they thought they could close it early because they felt there were public safety issues. That has been straightened out with parks, and they know they cannot close it early anymore. All the precincts have asked to alert people that there are unintended property stealing of unattended property is becoming a bigger issue, particularly in bars and in cars where people just leave their property where you could see it. And I noticed when we had the holiday party, Megan pointed out to me a row of tables where people had left their phones and wallets. Could not believe it. I just could not believe it. We hosted a meeting that Carlina called regarding the 10th Street, the garbage trucks that were still parked on 10th Street. All the local elected officials came themselves, as well as DOT, Borough Commissioner, and Sanitation. Some suggestions were made, which Sanitation will again investigate. Many people think, and it's been said to me with certainty, they feel Sanitation is doing this to try and encourage elected officials to cite a garage for CB6 and CB8 garbage trucks. And while there is no home being cited by the elected officials are having to deal with this problem. Let me see. The Brooklyn DA's office has announced that they were expunging prior marijuana convictions. Manhattan is supporting this, but they're waiting for New York State legislation to fix this rather than enforcing on an individual basis. They expect this to happen in 3 or 4 months. Brooklyn Bridge rehab is scheduled to be finished in late summer or spring. Manhattan Bridge rehab 2021 is anticipated completion date. And just to repeat what David was saying about the SNAP program, people have received their February SNAP benefits. And we don't know what is happening in the future in March, so I think it's really hard to tell people to manage them carefully because they have very little to manage, but that seems to be the situation right now. And that's it. Yeah.
Yes, Olympia.
Removal is temporary. A clarification about the benches removal. Is this temporary because of the cold season and they will reinstate the benches, or they remove them completely?
I would hope it would be temporary. I mean, the problem is certainly is more of a problem in the winter. You know, in the summer we actually saw a lot more people on the streets than we had previously.
Robin.
The transit, you said the MTA is going to come to the transportation meeting in March to talk about.
I said I expect it will be March. They came this month. They were here this month. Andy Byford himself came this month.
Do you know if that might include some of the plans that they were going to try to put forward, still maybe things through like bus lanes on 14th Street? Do you think they're going to talk about stuff like that?
Yes, exactly. And the reason they're not coming now is because they don't have the plans yet. Lee?
I've encouraged to hear some of the discussion about homeless outreach and BRC. However, some of the community think that a lot of this is just lip service. For those that live across the street or outside the homeless outreach unit, which is housed on Madison Street, to find during cold weather emergencies, day in and day out, mentally ill homeless encampments, emotionally disturbed people, permitted to live outside that unit without, if they're offered services, some of them are certainly in need of services.
Where is this specific?
This is Madison and Grand Street, outside the homeless outreach unit at the corner of Grand and Madison Street. I've had long conversations with the unit, with the precinct, and yet there continues to be this persistent problem, certainly within the 3-block radius of that location, where homeless people have lived for 4 or 5 years. As I said, some of whom are unfortunately in need of mental services and support. I know of an incident that occurred on the 11th in the 2nd Avenue subway station, where a 12-year-old girl on her way to school in the morning was assaulted, apparently by a homeless person.
Why do you say apparently?
Because
where this issue, I want to say there certainly is an issue of homelessness, a terrible issue with homelessness. But if we don't know that someone that assaulted
and neither the precinct or transit has been forthcoming with any additional information, and for privacy reasons, we're also hesitant to look deeper into that. Both the mayor's office and homeless outreach need to do more in this community, and I only know the circumstances of this community, but one can assume that if this is what's going on outside homeless outreach's doorstep, that is probably going on.
What would you like them to do?
What I would like them to do, first of all, is enact the policy that during cold weather emergencies, people who are incapable of taking care of themselves need to be forced into shelters and given services at a bare minimum, and that is not occurring.
So this is something I actually care a lot about and been working really closely. So we work, I won't say daily, but weekly with the homeless outreach. First of all, what you're talking about is a situation with the law. The law says if you want to live on the street, you may live on the street. If somebody is mentally ill, they have to be deemed by a specific medical person, not an outreach worker at least, that they could be of harm to themselves or others. When the weather is cold, and it is scary when it gets really cold and people are out there, they check. So it's not that they're not doing their job. Their job, whether we agree or not agree, because I have difficulty with seeing people live on the street in the cold weather, their job is to check on the people and see if they are in danger. If they're not in danger, if it's 30 degrees and they're dressed very warmly and they're in an alcove or something, what they do is they check on them throughout the night, because they do care and they do their job. They do, you can sit there and discuss every person with them and they'll tell you whether they're on case management. They know exactly what's going on. It is not that they're not doing their job. We have a crisis in our city with homelessness, and right now there are limited ways to deal with it. Should there be more ways? Policy is a whole different thing, but you and I are talking about what exists now, and their hands are tied. I can tell you the people out there do an excellent job.
They are out there constantly. They do care. They do mental health referrals. You cannot force somebody to take a mental health referral unless they're in danger to themselves and their others. And there's some that are borderline, and we discussed that. I want to ask you, when you see somebody particular, email me, let me know what it is, and give me the description, and I will try and engage about that person individually with the outreach person.
Thank you. Any other questions for the district manager? So we're going to move on to our committee. Yes.
I have a concern actually with this SNAP program.
Are you a board member?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. There is information going out to individuals who do receive the SNAP program and have received their February, is that if they don't use their February SNAP by the end of this month, it will not be there. So there's some information that needs to go out to the community to reassure them that that's not the fact. And the only reason I know is because I work with people who are in human services, and this is what the clients are saying. They're afraid not to use up their SNAP this month.
Thank you very much.
By way of suggestion also, and let me just editorialize one thing. Stand for, if people have concerns and they're not on a particular committee and there's an issue that maybe should be taken up by a committee, maybe they should present that concern, and maybe we can bring in an applicable city agency to address the issue, and then you can appear there. Because, you know, again, we are the eyes and ears of the community, and oftentimes we see things, so there's another way to circle around and bring this to the forefront. So thank you. So we do, as far as the executive committee, we do have 2 items on the vote sheet this evening. In the executive committee, we voted to include in our holidays for Community Board 3 not to schedule any meetings on Lunar New Year's Eve or Lunar New Year. And also to expand the Personnel Task Force to include board member matters and to be called Personnel and Board Member Matters Task Force. So the next committee is SLA DC. Thank you. Economic development?
We didn't meet.
Okay. Transportation?
Well, yeah, excuse me. The L train update, Susan already reported about this, but Byford, who's the president of New York City Transit, those are the people who operate the buses and the trains, did come to our meeting, and that was all good. The thing that people should be aware of is that this is MTA and DOT have been making plans for years to deal with the shutdown. And now that's all up in the air, and so they're not ready, they won't be ready to come to our meeting in February. In March, I hope that they'll have something to tell us. But all of these changes that are happening on the streets are DOT, and everything that happens underground is MTA. Agencies don't coordinate in the best of times, so I really wouldn't have expected them to be ready in February. They will be in March, I hope. Any questions or particulars about what was told to us or about the items on the agenda?
Did someone say earlier that they're actually already decided that they're not going to close the L train at all?
That was breaking news to me as well, but Susan contacted...
I was at the MTA meeting and they were saying they had to vote on it. They have a committee, they're having their own independent...
Also, you need to, I don't know what was decided, but you have to separate closure from how they're going to modify the tunnel and do the work, you know? They decided, not a ruling, but they decided several years ago, perhaps 2 years ago, that they were not going to do it as weekend and night work only, and they would get it done much faster if they just shut the tunnel. And that was shut down. So I don't really know exactly what they are, but if they have this, Susan, you want to clarify what you heard?
The press release says, therefore the total...
Microphone.
Sorry.
So MTA sent me over their press release, which was originally from some January, it's dated January 17th. Therefore, the total shutdown of both tunnels and all service scheduled for April 27th will not be necessary. We do anticipate a shutdown of one tube on nights and weekends. However, service both ways between Manhattan and Brooklyn would be scheduled 24/7.
Now, I lived out in Greenpoint the last time that they did one tunnel shut down on nights and weekends, and it was horrible. So it's not like this is nirvana. Okay.
My follow-up to that is, what about all the bike lanes and all the buses and
We don't know. We didn't hear anything about that. So
Right,
that
well,
would
that's
be
real controversial. I mean, my neighborhood too.
March.
Any more transportation questions? Okay, Parks. Trevor.
A bit of a busy meeting. We only had one resolution, and that was to support the solar pavilion project at La Plaza Cultural Community Garden. They are building an independent solar station. It might, and we hope that it will become a model from other community gardens in the neighborhood because they are willing to share their design. First, any questions on that? Say again? It's an independent, it's a self-standing solar station, so it's able to power the needs of the community garden. But also, we're looking to make sure that other community gardens can take advantage of this design so they can all have solar power.
I'm a member of that community garden. Do you want me to abstain in the vote or I can vote?
I believe technically, unless you work for an agency or you have a financial interest, you do not have to. But if you are asking that question at this late date, like the night of the vote, maybe, the thing is, there could be, well, you can always ask in advance of the, oh my gosh, what are they called, Susan? There's a board that deals with conflict of interest, the conflict of interest board. You can do it through the office. Just fire an email to Susan. Well, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong. Board members can fire an email to Susan saying, I have this situation. I want to know whether I can vote on this item at the meeting. Even do it in the morning of the meeting, and they'll usually get back to us. But at this late date, if you vote tonight and there's anything iffy about it and there were a hearing, it would not be good for you. It was something about being a member of a community garden, which sounds to me like there could not be a financial interest. Yeah, so I believe that there is not, but that's my belief.
So procedurally, what we want to do is let the chair finish their report, and then we take questions afterwards so people can follow what's going on more readily.
All right, so we're going to continue. We didn't have any other votes, but obviously the ESCR is a big thing that's going on in our neighborhood. There is a hearing of the other public officials I've mentioned tomorrow at 1 p.m. I think right now, as a committee, we are more or less looking for answers. We may be able to get some of these answers tomorrow, but it is an important hearing for a very large project. The rest of the meeting was focused on the waterfront, and I need to remind everybody that there is over $2 billion being spent on our waterfront edge. Our entire waterfront is being redeveloped or being built, so it's a huge investment in our waterfront. And that's all of CB3 and part of CB6. Every inch from the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade up to 14th Street has some sort of project going on. I apologize to our committee members for scheduling a meeting on Valentine's Day, but the last time we scheduled it on a Wednesday, there was a witch hunt and everyone got angry, so we're now back to Thursday. But you can also talk to the board about making Valentine's Day one of the holidays we don't have a meeting on. Bring your sweetheart to community board meeting. We'll be out by 9:45. Any questions?
And David, Craig, Olympia, if any board member has a question or a potential conflict of interest, you could always, for that particular item, say, present not voting. So that's the solution for that.
Present not voting is, well, that's correct. Good.
Land use?
We didn't have any votes. Every month we have an update from the Port of Manhattan Detention Center. Luckily, we heard nothing new this month. but they'll be back again next month, and we expect that ULURP to be referred March 25th.
Thank you. Landmarks? Okay. Health, senior, and human services, etc.
We don't have any votes for the board at this meeting. However, at the January meeting last month, we had Mount Sinai Beth Israel come to our committee to present, on their ever-evolving transformation plan. So for the 13th Street building, the Eye and Ear Hospital, they still will be submitting a certificate of need. It has been pushed back from the last quarter of last year to sometime in 2019 in the first half. The other news is that, well, as you all know, they have signed a letter of intent to rent 45 Rivington Street, the entire building, for the behavioral health services. So they gave a presentation on that. They signed a letter of intent. They haven't obtained the lease yet, but their plan is to rent the entire building, and part of that plan, they will also be submitting a certificate of need. There's no date on that yet since they don't even have a lease. So we'll keep you updated on those things. And for next month's meeting, we will also have a very nice and interesting and exciting presentation from 6 nonprofit groups who had been awarded the settlement funds from the restitution funds from the Rivington House. Nonprofits received a total of $1.25 million. They've been talking about their plans on how to use the money. It's very exciting. I've heard a little about it. They're doing work that's really needed. It's really exciting, and I'm glad to hear about their projects and their work. But they will be coming to the meeting to give a fuller presentation about it. So if you're interested in what they'll be doing, please come. It's February 7th at 6:30.
Yes, go ahead.
I just did want to say that for the group Neighbors to Save Rivington House, which I'm not representing here, but I happen to know people, that there is big concern that about the community impact statement. Like, have they actually asked about the not-for-profits that are culturally competent to supply some of the need that they purport to supply, and also that have been asked to share the space with the original intent for the 3.5-year fight to keep it a nursing home, to share a portion of that space with some of their gives we think are great, but it really cuts out the need for for especially diseases like Alzheimer's, where even Gouverneur cannot have people there who have severe dementia. So I just think it's important to say that, and also that nobody was told that this was their intention, and it's a 30-year lease that they're signed a letter of intent, which can mean nothing, but it's their intention. So.
Well, so they haven't signed the lease yet, and there's a letter of intent, and it's being done with the building, is now privately owned. It's not city-owned, so the owner can do what they want, and it's totally a private negotiation. But it is the building, and I think if we still have any questions about their services, I know the Neighbors to Save Rivington House spent a lot of time at the meeting asking those questions that Kay spoke of. But if you have any questions about the services that they are providing, or anything about it, please, I think we still have opportunity to ask those questions, and we should.
In anticipation of next month's meeting, are you able to disclose the nonprofits who were awarded the?
Oh yeah, it's public. It's in the settlement agreement. So you want me to list them now, or? Okay, so it's University Settlement, Henry Street Settlement, CHN Community Health Network, Chinese American Planning Council. What? Grand Street Settlement. Two more. No. No, someone who changed their name.
They used to be, actually, this for harm reduction.
Well, okay, they changed their name, but now they're harm reduction, right? And this, is that 6? Those are, yeah, that's it, yeah. So they're all well-known organizations, and they're all in they have to provide services in the 10002 zip code. That was part of the Rivington House settlement.
Okay, thank you. Baruch, Bathhouse, no report, okay. The Charter Revision Task Force, the chair was sick, so we're meeting next month. It's on the schedule. Essex Crossing Task Force, no report. Lower East Side Coastal Resiliency, Nancy's not here. Old business? Any new business? So we have to, vote.
Yes, yes.
Okay, this is the final vote on the full agenda. We have David Adams. Yes. Yaron Altman. Yes. Jesse Beck. Yes. Dominic Berg. Yes. Lee Berman. Yes. Victoria Barrios. Lisa Burris. Carlin Chan. Yes. Jonathan Chu. Yes. Mi-Fung Chung. Yes. David Crane. Yes. Paul DiRienzo. Yes. Eric Diaz. Yes. Dean Youngson. Yes. Alistair Economacus. Yes. Shirley Fennessy. Shirley? She's there. Shirley? Oh, no, sorry. I was thinking someone else. David Ford?
Yes.
Ryan Gillum? Yes. Deborah Glass? Yes. Herman Hewitt? Trevor Holland? Yes. Linda Jones? Yes. Valentina Jones? Yes. Megan Joy? Yes. Lisa Kaplan? Yes. Olympia Kazi?
Yes, abstain on parts.
Joseph Kearns? Mei Lee? Yes. Alicia Lewis Coleman? Luis Lopez? Michael Marino? Yes. Jeremy Markman? Antonio Martinez? Alexander Militano? Yes. Nancy Ortiz? Carolyn Radcliffe? Damaris Reyes? Richard Ropiak? Yes. Robin Chattel? Yes. Larissa Scheinberg? Clint Smeltzer? Yes. Anisha Stephen? Yes. Sandra Struther? Yes. Josephine Velez? Yes. Rodney Washington? Yes. Kathleen Webster? Yep. Okay.
Old business? New business? Just 1 second, we have to take our vote tally.
Yes. 35 passed. So yes.
Huh?
35 passed, yes.
35 passed, okay. We'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you all for your cooperation, and we hope our chair feels better.